Good day, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you for registering your presence for this webinar about navigating the Telecom Product Certification in India. I am Nivedita Verma and I look after operations and business strategy at Vincular. I will be the moderator for this webinar where we will be talking about updates on mandatory testing and certification of telecommunication equipment, MTCTE, Phase 3 and Phase 4, introduction to MTCTE Phase 5, challenges in MTCTE, security requirements by NCCS and COMSEC scheme, lab infrastructure and Vincular preparation for security testing, end of life and end of sale requirement, special certification, labeling guidelines, HSN codes, and requirements for waste management in telecom. To update you all, participants' microphones are muted during the session. For any question, please put your questions in the chat box and we will try to answer as many questions as possible in the chat box itself. I would like to start today's webinar by welcoming and thanking everyone present for giving their valuable time to Vincular and this opportunity to deliver this session to you. Through this webinar, we intend to bring much needed insights and understanding about Indian telecom certification and the recent updates. Vincular ensures timely regulatory updates, and if you are interested in being notified about the updates, please follow our LinkedIn page. The link for the same will be shared in the chat box. Also, for any personal connect, questions or requirements, you can write to us and we will be sharing the email IDs in the chat box for a quick reference. So, as we all are aware that mandatory date for Phase 3 and Phase 4 have been further extended, and a list of Phase 5 is also released. I would request Pragati, an expert from Vincular Telecom team, to share the details with us about the update on MTCTE Phase 3 and 4, along with the introduction of Phase 5 and challenges with respect to MTCTE certifications.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you are equally excited to know about the latest update in the MTCTE regulation. 6 days back, TEC has released a notification for the extension of 44 ERs of product categories, which was in Phase 3 and Phase 4 of the MTCTE regulation. The mandatory date of certification for 32 ERs or product categories falling under Phase 3 and Phase 4 has been extended by 3 months. The earlier date of implementation was 1st July 2023 and now has been postponed to 1st October 2023. Next. The products like IoT gateway, tracking devices, SBC, routers, switches, next, etc. These products fall in the list. In the screen, we can have the name of the ERs in a glance. Next. It also has mobile management systems, OTA and DM or FOTP service control devices. Further, in continuation, the mandatory date of certification for 12 product categories falling under Phase 3 and Phase 4 has been extended by 6 months. That is from 1st July 2023 to 1st Jan 2024. Next, it includes products like base station, repeater, cellular network, radio broadcast receiver, optical fiber cable. The ER list is again visible on the screen. In the next slide, we are going to talk about the acceptance of international test reports. TEC has extended the deadline for acceptance of ILAN reports for technical testing from non-border sharing countries till 31st December. This extension applies to 10 specific ER product categories, which are visible on the screen. These categories include base station, repeater for cellular network, HF radio, etc. It encompasses all the products that were granted a 6-month extension with an exception of mobile radio trunking system and PTP-PMP microwave fixed radio station. Along with all these updates with respect to Phase 3 and Phase 4, TEC has also released the notification for Phase 5, and our next slide talks about the same. TEC has has officially proposed the list of 7 products or ERs which will fall under phase 5 of the MTCTE regulation. The mandatory date of implementation for these products will be 1st July 2024. TEC will start accepting the application from 1st July 2023. That means that the portal will be ready and we will be able to submit the application after 2 days. Total 7 products, next. Total 7 products have been finalized for phase 5. Among these products, ILAC reports for technical parameters from non-border sharing countries are accepted for base station for cellular network for 5G, 5G4, hypervisor, E-band fixed radio relay system. Other than that, there are 3 more products which are falling in phase 5, but ILAC reports are not accepted for them, which covers converged multi-service application access equipment, IP terminal, hybrid set-top box. With all these updates, we hope to have more aligned process and faster certification delivery. Our next slide focuses on the challenges in MTCTE certification. There is a total of 67 ERs, out of which 60 ERs fall in the mandatory list and whose implementation dates are announced. But our lab infrastructure with respect to testing the product is limited. Looking at the size of the industry and products, there are different labs to test different parameters. One lab cannot fulfill all testing parameters under a product's ER. This leads to transportation of samples between cities, resulting in increased timelines. There are only few labs for technical testing in India for such a huge lot of products. The situation is same for RF testing. We only have few labs which has been accredited by CAB as a CAB by TEC and spread mostly across Northern India. These labs are conducting various tests for the first time, particularly for high-end products, which contributes to their slower pace and limited understanding of technicalities of these high-end devices. A 3-month extension may not be sufficient, but as the implementation dates have been announced, we should begin testing and certification for MTCTE regulation for all the 5 phases. On top of this, new requirements are also getting added, which includes ECR parameters for which there is no lab at the moment. However, it appears that it is going to be on a self-declaration mode as of now. We expect that TEC is so soon going to come up with more number of labs in the coming year and widen its testing infrastructure, which will help resolve these issues. With that, I would like to conclude this topic and hand over the platform to Nivedita. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Pragati, for the details. I hope this brings clarity to all the participants about the implementation date, as the extension is a huge relaxation for the industry, giving more time to get their products tested and certified. As we discussed the mandatory dates of phase 3, 4, and 5, I would like to highlight that as on date, the mandatory testing and certification of telecom equipment is done on the grounds of its results of safety, electromagnetic interference, and compatibility along with the interface and protocol tests. However, as Pragati mentioned, going forward, there will be the requirements for ECR as well. We also need to focus on the security requirements for Wi-Fi CPE and IP routers, which will be mandatory from 1st of January 2024. I would request Devesh, security requirement expert from our team, to discuss the requirements in details.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Nivedita and Pragati, for your valuable insights on MTCTE phase 3, 4, and 5 updates. Let me take it further from here. In recent times, we have seen the emergence of new technologies like AI, 5G, which will make our life easy. But seen from the side of reality, there are multiple things to be taken care of, out of which security will be the most important among all the others. I can easily put out various security attacks, example, which resulted in the immense loss of data in time. The incident which grabbed my attention is the GitHub server DDoS attack. It was one of the top 10 largest DDoS attacks and took GitHub offline for 10 minutes, in which 1.35 terabytes of traffic was overloaded to server. It was recorded that server for 10 minutes hosted 50 times more traffic in terms of data volumes. Therefore, witnessing these type of security compromises example shall encourage the manufacturer to opt for the telecom product security compliance. To work on the same, NCCS, National Center for Communication Security, which is under wing of DOT, released the security scheme COMSEC, Communication Security Certification Scheme, in conjunction with the TC's MTCTE scheme. TC under MTCTE scheme has already been issuing the certificate on the basis of EMC safety and technical testing since 2018. But recently, security notification was released by TC and requirement was made mandatory for two IT certs. The first one is Wi-Fi CPE, the other one is IP routers. The security requirement has been extended to 6 months ahead, that is from 1st of July 2023 to 1st of Jan 2024. For all the viewers' attention, ITSA, Indian Telecom Security Assurance Requirements, are the security standard set by NCCA department, similarly like the ER standard of MTCT. Thanks. Talking about the NCCS IT SARs, we shall discuss about the Wi-Fi CP IT SAR scope and the NCCS testing criteria. As you all can see in the left side of the screen, Wi-Fi CPE covers Wi-Fi routers, Wi-Fi modems, broadband modems with Wi-Fi facility, cable modems with Wi-Fi facility, FTTH ONTs with Wi-Fi facility, Wi-Fi data cards that provide Wi-Fi facility with backend 2G, 3G, and 4G connectivity. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have the NCCS Wi-Fi CPE testing criteria, which states that any Wi-Fi product having the capability of static or dynamic routing or netting functionality or any packet filtering functionality, irrespective of product name assigned by OEM or deployment scenario, is covered under the scope of Wi-Fi CPE ITSA. Hence, Wi-Fi access point with any of the above functionalities falls under the category of Wi-Fi CPE. More of the scope will be discussed by the Kalyan sir in the upcoming slides.
So, while we are discussing about the security testing infrastructure, we have a guest speaker, Mr. Kalyan Verma, Vice President of Market Access Service, Global and General Manager, GRL Service India. Mr. Kalyan is an industry expert with a rich experience of 21 plus years. Hello, Mr. Kalyan. Kindly help to illustrate on mandatory security testing approach in NCCS COMSEC security certification process.
Yeah, am I audible now to everybody?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Okay, can you just go to the next slide? Yeah, maybe next one. Yeah. Okay. As explained already now, the NCCS security requirements, which will be the new ones which are added to the national security scheme, that is MTCTE. So at present, the scheme will slowly will integrate into the MTCTE. The latest update would be that at present, as you see, there is a 6 months postponement on implementation date. However, from next month onward, the same will be allowed to be applied for the certification scheme. Can you just go to the next slide? Next slide. Yeah, fine. Good. So the first and major update is the implementation date has been shifted from 1st July 2023 to 1st Jan 2024. And as on today, the application process is still not completely started yet. And from latest information, what we have received from NCCS, the portal for online application for security certification is expected to be operational by end of July. That means manufacturer can apply for certification from 1st of August onwards. So as most of you are aware, at present, two products are under mandatory list. One is IP router, second one is Wi-Fi, CPR Wi-Fi access points. So followed by many other products like all the PON family, then you have a lot of terminal equipment, switches, all these products which are already the ITSAR requirements have been published and they would become mandatory in a sequential manner as and when the infrastructure is made available in India. And unlike in MTCTE for safety and EMC, in security requirements, entire testing must be done in so-called TSTL, the authorized laboratories of NCCS within India only. Now, the requirements are defined in ITSARs, and ITSAR is a very high-level requirement document, predominantly captures various requirements from standards like 3GPP, and some of them are from international OSAP top 10, CWA 25, or NIST requirements, and additional requirements with respect to specific needs of Indian government has been incorporated. I must say it is a quite elaborative and a stringent standard, you can say at this point of time. There are close to 84 to 85 different test requirements are required to be fulfilled to comply with the ITSAR. And also there are a significant amount of declarations and documentation need to be provided from the OEM side with respect to the source code vulnerability assessment, the configuration details, and the authentication process implemented in the product, which forms a prerequisite for a lab to do the qualification. So currently, the validity of certification issued by NCCS for COMSEC scheme will be 5 years. And it is expected that the scheme will be integrated back into MTCTE, and the requirement of security will become one of the requirement of ER in future. But for now, the independent certification would it be done. So the second major question we normally receive, like how do we do the formation of series? Is it allowed or not? Because as you know, in other schemes at present in India, not only in India, globally, you always form a series or a group of family models so that you can optimize the qualification and testing based on the technical identical configurations. The similar approach is also adopted in NCCS certification scheme. However, the grouping will be done based on the software version it implements on various models, which might fall on the same hardware family series. And if the identical software version and configuration is being used in a different models, up to 10 of them can be grouped together into one series, and one of them can be tested so that all the 10 can be qualified. So the biggest challenge as on today is the availability of test facilities. As I mentioned earlier, the entire testing must be done within India, and that creates a challenge. And also the requirements defined in ITSARs are not completely available internationally anywhere as an accredited service. So this brings a big challenge for the regulator as well as the labs and the OEMs at this point of time. And at present, there are 7 labs which are at different stages of approval process. And hope GRL is one of them. And we are expecting that at least 2 to 3 labs are expected to be approved by NCCS based on the latest review conducted by NCCS by end of July. So by 1st of August, when the portal is ready, you will have at least 2 to 3 labs to choose for compliance program. But at the same time, since the requirements are quite stringent and very elaborative, the and also it requires a lot of documentation to be prepared by the OEMs and the labs. So there is a strong recommendation by NCCS, which is also documented and published in the minutes of meeting, which was published in the month of May, that the OEMs are allowed to engage with the all potential TSTLs who applied for recognition for a pre-compliance, pre-evaluations, so that the process of certification can be shortened. That could be agreement on the legal documentation, NDAs, or the declarations which required to be provided by the manufacturer, and summary of some of the evaluations done by the manufacturers, which forms a prerequisite for the qualification. All this can be done, and then once official portal opens up, the same can be applied to through the portal, and NCCS will then appoint a validator on behalf of NCCS, which is also a slightly a different process when compared to MTCTE or BIS or any other schemes. So from the day you file an application with NCCS, there will be a dedicated validator appointed by NCCS who will review the configuration of the product and also the test strategy by the lab and the test plan, what required to be done, what configurations required to be taken into consideration. And upon their approvals, the actual testing happens. This has a positive as well as negative challenges going forward. The positive impact would be that you already pre-agree on the test criteria with the authorities, so that it's easy for us to avoid any post submission issues in terms of coverage of testing or any of them. At the same time, since there is a regulator involvement, the process of finalizing the test strategy can be longer than normal. And also, in the beginning, the availability of validator can be a challenge. NCCS assured at least the labs and OEMs in the last meeting, they will make sure that there is no um, time challenges in terms of validator availability that will be taken care. But I think we need to go forward and then see. The most important thing is once the portal is available, we recommend OEMs to immediately start the process because it involves quite a bit of legal documentation to be submitted and IP related documents required to be submitted. And also wherever it's possible to engage in pre-compliance. As I mentioned earlier, it is a bit stringent requirement, also new to us. Just to give a prospect, not to make anybody worry about it, we have done quite a bit market sample analysis as part of the preparation for the COMSEC, and we found only 10% of the products are able to meet the requirements, which are out of like 10 to 12 products what we have randomly picked up in the market and date. And many of them do have multiple failure points, which also needs some amount of work from OE side to be done to make sure they meet the NCCS requirements. Currently, the end-to-end process is estimated to take around 16 weeks, that including the testing in the labs, the documentation, the review by NCCS and issue certification. As I mentioned, if you can start the process early, this can be a little bit shortened. And just to avoid a last minute rush, we kindly request the OEs to start the process at the earliest. As of now, there is one other open question comes into the picture. Do you need additional labeling? At present, there is no specific labeling requirement, and NCCS does not expect an additional label to be put it on the device to show compliance to security requirements, as it would become part of MTCTE scheme at some point of time. So there is no separate logo or something required to be placed. But this will be further clarified with a notification once the scheme gets integrated into the MTCTE scheme. So the products listed, as you see, already been discussed by Devesh in the past. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So if you look at for most of the audience interest point of view, it's are free to download standards. I would not call them standard rather than requirement documents, which are free to downloads. You can get it access anytime. And most of the ITSARs do refer to TSDSI 3GPP methodology requirement, which is again a free to download document. And by looking at these two documents, to a large extent, you can chalk out what are the requirements which you require to fulfill for the products in compliance. But as I mentioned, it's quite elaborate requirements, starting from the authentication, access attributes, software security, system execution, configuration, and vulnerability assessment, and a review of the interfaces, and then various penetration testings required to be done. And all these parameters required to be executed in the lab. And then to do that, as mentioned earlier, we would need a complete documentation in terms of the configuration management and number of the protocols which require to be supported by the device, how many of them are factories that support protocols, how many of them to be configured in the field protocols. All these required to be defined so that we can analyze all of them. And like also fuzzing required to be done, all the supported protocols of 30 plus protocols, and all the ports open required to be analyzed. And all this required a lot of effort and coordination with the OEMs in the beginning. So there will be a detailed prerequisites checklist which we can help you with the identification of the requirements. And then certain requirements of 3GPP are defined, which will then be used various test tools recommended by the NCCS can be used over there to do the completions. So at present, we are estimating the effort in the lab at the TSTL to perform all these assessments with available necessary documentation anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. The overall 16 weeks time frame is from the beginning to completion of the certification process, including the time required from the NCCS review and certification. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So very high level process. The application would be possible to apply in MTCTC portal itself. So the same TEC portal what we are at present using for the MTCTE portal, the same portal would be enhanced where you can select for COMSEC and the selection of the lab. And once the applications are submitted, as I mentioned, there will be a pre-review by the NCCS, and a validator would involve in the identification of test strategy, and then testing would be done by the TSTL under the guidance of the validator, and then the NCCS would then further review and go ahead with the certification process. So it is completely new to all stakeholders at this point of time, the labs, the local partners, the NCCS, as well as the OEMs. So you would see some amount of challenges in the beginning of the implementation. That's the reason early would be the best. And they only at this point of time added 2 products under mandatory to list to ensure there is a proper process streamline. Then more products would be brought into the regulation. Yep, so that's all from the security quick update. Any questions which we should take it now? Can you quickly read so that I can maybe 1 or 2 questions we take it now and rest we can take at the end?
So, sir, we have one question from a guest. So he's mentioning if the security requirements are based on the international standards, and if yes, if you could just elaborate a bit about it.
Yeah, so they're not completely one-to-one match to any international standard, unlike electrical safety, where we say that Indian safety requirements are completely identical to 60950 or 6236. It's not like that in ITSA. However, most of these requirements are derived from 3GPP requirements and some of the European ITU requirements and IEEE requirements. So the answer is no, but it is referred to any of these requirements.
Okay, sir. So thank you, sir, for such informative details and the answers that you shared with us. This certainly helps to understand the regulatory requirement better from lab's perspective. Also, if anyone have any further questions for Mr. Kalyan, the questions can be taken up in the end. Further, going forward, I would request my colleague Devesh to please help us understand Vincular's view for the lab infrastructure and Vincular's preparations and offerings for pre-compliance security.
So as discussed by, as mentioned by Kalyan sir, that more labs will be coming into picture, and currently only one lab is accredited by NCCS. So we are hopeful that NCCS security testing will be moving ahead very smoothly. Next. So this will be my last slide under the security topic. So the Vincular preparation for the pre-compliance security testing. We Vincular at your telecom, we Vincular as your telecom regulatory partner couldn't help but notice how important it is become to perform MTCTE security testing for business like yours. With data breaches and cyber threats on the rise, safeguarding your organization's sensitive information is no longer an option but a necessity. We understand the challenge you face when it comes to ensuring data integrity and protecting your valuable assets. That's why we wanted to reach out to you and introduce you to our pre-compliance services for our telecom products. Let us dive into the Vincular offerings for you all one by one. The first one is guidance in the preparation, arrangement of testing documentations, which covers the 60 to 70% of the security testing. And this point is mentioned by the Kalyan sir as well. The next is package offering encapsulating well-rounded and negotiated cost, testing at the hand of security experts, hand-holding throughout the complete process. In case of test failure, support with resolution at same service fees, learning opportunity as the security requirement is new for industry. Further, we have some key benefits of MTCTE NCCS pre-compliance security testing. But the first one is, and the most important is uncover hidden vulnerabilities. Next, ensure compliance against the ITSA requirement. And in case of failure, it allows manufacturer to do R&D over the loopholes in the product. Time optimization is the last benefit for the pre-compliance of security testing. So this is my last words for the security testing. Nivedita, over to you. Can take forward from. Thank you all.
So as we all discussed with the requirements or the discussed requirements in place, we have seen being faced while import as there are many rules with which the shipment must abide, including the correct label being placed on the product to pass the custom clearance. From insights on end of life and end of sale, special certifications, labeling guidelines, usage of correct HSN code for smooth custom clearance, I would request Sneha, an expert from our team with an experience of 6+ years, to please share her views.
Thank you, Nivedita. So the first topic that I will be covering today will be on how to deal with end of sales product for MTCTE. Can we have the next slide? Okay. So we all understand that annual maintenance contracts are a very important part of a product service offering from any product manufacturer. For a product deployed in critical environments, such as a data center or at the enterprise edge, maintenance and warranty replacement are a value-added service. To understand the AMC requirement for end-of-sales devices covered under MTCTE, let us first understand what exactly is an end-of-sale or an end-of-life device. Now, end-of-sale actually refers to the date after which a manufacturer no longer sells the product in the market or no longer manufactures it. However, for products covered under warranty replacements or AMC contracts, the manufacturer keeps some spare units of its inventory such that it can support customers with replacement of components or whole unit as per the maintenance or the service contract dates. In the similar manner, end of life is the date after which a manufacturer ends all provision towards its device, including any warranty replacement or maintenance contract. The product comes to an end of life in all forms, including its sales, manufacturing, and service contracts. So, important pointers with respect to end of sale devices for MTCT. For a telecom device that is covered under mandatory testing and certification framework, which goes end of sale before the mandatory date of certification. However, some units are to be imported for AMC related events till the end of service contract with the customer. TEC has given provision of an end of sale or end of life declaration to be submitted by the manufacturer. Now, this declaration can be submitted before the effective date of a phase with details of the model that are under the AMC contract, and it should also include the model number, date that the model is going end of sale or end of life, and a link of the public announcement from the OEM stating the relevant information of the product's AMC. Now, such a declaration would suffice the regulatory requirement, and MTCTE certification will not be required during importing the replacement unit in India. So, in a nutshell, we can say that with this provision, the manufacturer will be able to fulfill AMC obligations related to whole unit warranty replacement of these models to their customers without having MTCTE certification. We all understand that such a policy is a huge relaxation for manufacturers that have a great deal of products covered under AMC contracts. However, they cannot apply for certification just to import a few units of the model for these limited services. With that, I will now move on to the next topic, which is again an important one, the special certification criteria from TEC for 3 product categories, switches, routers, and DWDM. Can we have the next slide? Yes. So now for high-end telecom equipment with very special testing requirements, TEC has created a provision of granting certification using international test reports. This special certification criteria is subjective only to routers, LAN switches, and DWDM equipment, provided that the model under certification must have high-end current requirements, such as the model operates on a single or 3-phase with current requirements greater than 32 ampere, or the model operates on 48 VDC with current requirements greater than 100 ampere. Next page, please. With this special certification criteria, there are some things to be noted. First one is that the specifications related to the voltage, current, and power requirement of the product must be mentioned in the bill of material, the BOM file, while submitting the application to MTCTE. It must also be noted that international test reports must be from ILAC accredited lab from non-border sharing nations for the EMC, EMI, and safety testing requirement only. The reason behind this is that the labs in the country might not be well equipped to test these technical requirements for devices with high-end current and voltage requirement. Technical requirements not being a traditional global parameter, TEC will accept a self-declaration of conformity from the manufacturer. Based on this self-declaration of conformity, TEC will consider technical requirements to be exempt for the product. Once this application is thoroughly scrutinized and approved by TEC, the certificate validity will be provisional for a period of 2 years. Now here I will also mention that the security requirements that were discussed by Dhruv and Kalyanji under the COMSEC scheme, as is when notified by FCCS, must also be fulfilled by the manufacturer, and this provisional certificate must be converted into an integrated MTCTE certificate. This is all on the special certification criteria, and I will now move on to the next topic, which is a very important one, labeling guidelines. Now, labeling is a very important part of any product's regulatory certification scheme, and manufacturers have to go on to that extra mile to ensure that their products are labeled in a correct manner before making that market entry. Now, TEC being a new regulation, there is a relaxation in equipment labeling from TEC for a period of 6 months from the effective date of the phase, or 6 months from the date of the issue of the MTCTE certificate, which one out of the two is later. Now, similarly for phase 3 and phase 4, like Pragati mentioned, equipment going mandatory from 1st October 2023, labeling requirement will be relaxed till 1st April 2024. And equipments going mandatory from 1st January 2024, the labeling requirement will be relaxed till 1st July 2024. I will now move on to the next slide, which will talk about the recent changes in the MTCTE label from TEC. So very recently, TEC has changed the look of the TEC label to make it more compact. In the past, manufacturers had shared feedback with TEC that a large label is difficult to be placed in products with less surface area. In the screen, you can refer the latest TEC logo on the right-hand side of the presentation. This new label contains less information as compared to the past, and details such as the certificate number and the website link have now been removed. I will now move on to the next slide for how the labeling requirements are for the phase 1 and phase 2 products. So for these products where the label is already affixed by manufacturers in their inventory, TEC has not raised the requirement to change the label. The old label affixed in the units of already certified products shall continue without any modification. An image of the old label is present in the screen for your ready reference. I will move on to the next topic now. Again, a very important, the HSN code and how important they are while you import your telecommunication products in it. So, like I mentioned, the applicable custom duty is auto-calculated based on the assigned code. And since different codes evoke different percentage of custom duty, oftentimes the importers misclassify their product's HSN code to avoid high custom duty, or maybe due to the licensing requirements for regulated products. I will now talk about a very recent notification that came from the Indian Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, which listed down the description and alphanumeric identifiers for telecom products being imported in India. Now, this is very specific to telecommunication product, and it has been drafted in a very thorough consultation with the Department of Telecommunication, and it has been drafted with an intent to bring more clarity for identification of telecom goods starting from the initial stage of the import declaration itself. This notification has two annexures, and the first annexure consists of an identification criteria for certain telecom equipment falling under the HSN 851-76290 and HSN 851-76990. So these HSN consists of products like optical transport equipment and optical transport network products like OTN and DWDM, gateway controller products, session border controllers, Ethernet switches, and IP/PAVX, to name a few. The annexure also contains an additional alphanumeric code or an identifier for these telecom products. This alphanumeric code or identifier must now additionally be declared in the bill of entry by the importer starting from 1st April 2023 in order to bring clarity within the stakeholders towards the devices being imported. An example of this is present on the screen, where media gateways are classified under the identifier F, which covers the product category soft switches and VoIP equipment, and it has the alphanumeric identifier TEF002. Similarly, VoIP phones, SBCs, and IP/PAVXs under the same identifier F have the alphanumeric codes TEF001, TEF003, and TEF004 respectively. Now, for all your telecommunication products from 1st April 2023, this additional filing must be made in the bill of entry while importing your product in India. Similarly, there are 8 identifier categories that has been notified, covering various products with different alphanumeric codes. I will conclude it by saying that with the convergence of technology, products are oftentimes designed to be multifunctional, and hence they are covered under various regulatory requirements. Such products also fit multiple product categories and can be classified under more than one HSN code. Now, ultimately, it is the responsibility of the manufacturer, the responsibility of the importer to correctly classify their product and make the correct BOE filing and also take the regulatory approval for the specific product category. This new provision released by the Indian Custom Department is one another step to strengthen the regulatory framework of the country. And the intent here is to bring more clarity among all the stakeholders with respect to the import of telecommunication products. With that, I will now conclude my presentation and I will thank you for listening so intently and I will apologize for all the technical issues. Nivedita, I will hand the session back to you for taking. Thank you.
Thank you, Sneha, for clarifying the most muddled details. Also, I would like to apologize to all our participants for the technical glitch caused. So I would like to thank again Mr. Kalyan Verma, Sneha, Pragati, and Devesh for sharing these details with us. I believe this aids to better understanding of requirements for all our participants, and now we are well versed with all the updates. Dear participants, by far, we have discussed the requirement highlighted by the Department of Telecommunication under the MTCTE scheme. However, we all are well aware about the growing global concerns with waste management. Along with the telecom approval, all the importers, producers who can be any Indian companies must abide with the waste management guidelines, which are governed by the Central Pollution Control Board. There are majorly 3 active regulations that require extended producer responsibility EPR certificate under the waste management rules, which are electronic waste management. Under the electronic waste management EPR, all the telecom devices are covered where they must be recycled after the product is end of life. And prior to their import, EPR certificate must be taken by the importers. Also, here we all must note that the concerned product categories must be added to your EPR certificates. The second waste management requirement highlighted by the regulator is plastic waste management. Under the plastic waste management EPR, all kind of plastic being used in the packaging are covered under the scope. Also, any Indian entity that uses plastic packaging as a part of their operations, irrespective of the turnover or scale of operation, need to have EPR certification as per the nature of business. The third management for the waste is the battery waste management. So to ensure the most of the waste generated from any electronic product and to channelize it in a proper way, a separate battery waste management for EPR has been introduced so that the hazardous waste is treated and managed separately. Also, to update you all, Vincular is a registered producer responsibility organization, PRO, by the Central Pollution Control Board. PRO is a legal authorized body by CPCB who can assist producers for proper management of their EPR. Also, Vincular has been managing the waste management compliance activities for many brands from the initial inception of the requirement, with a team of dedicated resources working in the direction of registrations. With CPCB, we have a good knowledge and understanding of the necessary liabilities that are applicable on the producers and the effective implementation plans to fulfill the same. We at Vincular would now like to express and extend our gratitude to all the participants to give their valuable time and making this session a success. We hope this session has added value to your information and has benefited in any expected way. The recording for the session can be accessed over the Vincular's YouTube channel for future reference. We shall also be sharing a feedback form for which I request everyone to share their valuable inputs in which that will help us plan and deliver such sessions more effectively and successfully. We will also be sharing the LinkedIn page link and our email IDs where you can let us know if you have any questions and you can get updates. We shall get back to you soon with another interesting session. Till then, you may get in touch with us at sales@vincular.in or tc@vincular.in. Thank you everyone once again and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you. Also, for all the unanswered questions, you may let us know over the email and we will get back to you at the earliest.